happy Thursday, everyone. My name is meteorologist Heather Kane. It's time for our daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by C3 Group, Merlin Law Group, American Contractor Show, as well as Atlas Roofing. Thank you guys for sponsoring our videos. So let's get right into our weather headlines. We have been counting down the top 10 storms of 2022, and today we are recapping the second costliest storm of the year, so we'll talk about that. And then we do have a risk in parts of the Ohio Valley getting up into the lower Great Lakes region, so we'll talk about what modes we're expecting and what areas we will be watching carefully this afternoon and evening. And then we will be looking ahead as we get into our weekend, as well as into the beginning of next week, if there are any storm systems that we will be watching. But before we get to our forecast, we do have a few events going on. The next event that we will be at the CRA trade show on the 26th of this month. We will be in Aurora, Colorado at the county fairgrounds. So if you are going to that show, make sure you come on by and say hi to us there. And then the next show is the SRC Summit down in Dallas. This will be on the 29th through the 31st. And if you would like to go, but you haven't signed up yet, we do have a promo code. It is HAIL, so make sure you sign up if you haven't already and come on by and see us down at the summit. Again, that's from the 29th through the 31st. So we are breaking it down, the top 10 weather events of 2022. We're at number 2. So this was the derecho that affected parts of the Great Lakes region down into the Ohio Valley on June 13th. We had mostly really strong winds. That's what a derecho is, as well as how long it lasts and all that fun stuff. But we also had some hail up to 2 inches in diameter. So again, high winds impacted the Ohio Valley and down into parts of the Midwest. And then some areas that got hit the hardest were parts of Chicago, especially the western side of the city, where 90-mile-per-hour gusts occurred there, and then around 100-mile-per-hour gusts in Fort Wayne. So you can see those swaths right there. And then we also had some high winds up to 80 miles per hour, along with up to 2-inch hail that occurred in southern Wisconsin, and that also impacted the Milwaukee area. And in total, all of this costs us $3.2 billion. So again, this is number 2. Make sure you stay tuned to our forecast for tomorrow. We will reveal our number 1 storm of the year, which kind of beat everyone out by a large margin. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. So here are yesterday's storm reports. We didn't have a whole lot of activity, just a few wind reports, and then there's a tornado icon here hiding under the wind report as they happen in the same area. But just scattered about here. Again, not a whole lot of activity occurred in terms of severe weather. But in terms of winter weather, we did have a lot of the white stuff occurring in parts of the Central Plains, as well as getting up into the northern Great Lakes region. You can see some of those brighter colors here. Over a foot of snow fell in central Iowa, as well as in central Nebraska, the northwestern parts of Omaha. You guys saw a good amount of snow too. So this was a pretty solid system when it came to snow. Hopefully you guys are digging out okay, because that's a lot of stuff. So let's jump into our current conditions for today. We still have that same storm system that did bring a little bit of severe weather in the south, as well as a heavy snow in the central and Great Lakes region, and it's continuing to dump snow there. We're going to zoom right into the area that we're going to be watching, or I guess we'll take a look at this first. This is down in the southeast. Again, just a few showers occurring for this afternoon. No severe weather is expected. We just lost all of that steam. There's no instability down there, so we're not expecting any severe weather across the Carolinas up to Virginia, southward to Florida. But if we move on to the north, We will be watching areas such as Cleveland, down to Cincinnati, westward to Indianapolis. You can see that we have some clearing going on right now, and that heavy snow is wrapping around that low pressure. And then to the east of the system, very heavy rain as well as some wintry precipitation falling in the northeast. So let's zoom on out. Here are our temperatures across the United States. It's only 49 in Fort Wayne, 35 in Kansas City. You go south of this system though, it's 70 in Atlanta, 81 in Miami. And again, getting behind it, that cold air is starting to sink on in. It's only 32 in Minneapolis. So in terms of our watches and warnings, it's not as active as what we saw yesterday, but we still have some areas under some winter weather advisories as well as some winter storm warnings. Again, from basically Minneapolis eastward to the northern half of Wisconsin and into parts of lower Michigan. And then we also have some winter weather advisories and some winter storm warnings out in the northeast. And then we have a winter storm watch for another little system that will be moving on through. That will be into Friday and Saturday, and then getting out into the west, some winter weather advisories out there as well. So let's get into the severe part of our forecast for today. This is our future radar. Again, this is just one particular run of one particular model. So this model is saying around 2 p.m. Central, so 3 p.m. Eastern time. We will be watching parts of eastern Indiana and western Ohio for those storms to start to fire up. And then as we get into later on in the evening, this is at 5 p.m. Eastern time, a very strong line of storms is expected to fire up and impact central Ohio. So Columbus, if you're in that area, expect some very gusty winds. Hail is not out of the question. I'll get to why in just a second, but some very strong winds are likely here from basically just south of Toledo to Columbus, southward to the Ohio-Kentucky border. And then getting into later on in the evening, this is at 7 Eastern time. Cleveland, you could get some strong winds at that time as well. And then as we get into later on in the evening, Pittsburgh can get in on the action around 8 p.m. or so. So a very strong line of storms is expected to fire up and quickly move off to the east through this afternoon and evening. All modes are possible, but again, strong winds is going to be the most concerning thing that we'll be watching. And then getting into the overnight hours, that will move out, and then we'll have some more moisture behind it, but it may not be rain. I'll get to that in just a second, as well as cold air will be coming in behind that cold front. And more moisture will continue to push on through, scattered in variety as we get from this evening, late this evening, probably after 9 p.m. Eastern time and into the overnight hours and into tomorrow morning. So these are our future wind gusts. You can see at the surface, it is going to be very windy. This is at 3 p.m. 3:30 Central Time, so 4:30 Eastern. It's going to be a windy day, if we get storms or not. It's going to be windy from the Ohio Valley eastward into parts of Pennsylvania. Those gusts will be getting up to around 50 miles per hour. So it's going to be really windy at the surface, and it's going to be really windy as well in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So we have some things that we'll be watching. This is just one of them. So it's going to be windy as all heck, and that will continue into tomorrow morning as well. So let's break it all down a little bit for you. This is our hail forecast for today. Again, I'm not expecting anything too large, up to quarter-size hail, maybe a bit larger if we can get a storm or two to stay isolated, but we saw in the model runs, those storms are going to line out very quickly. But we still have a marginal chance of some marginally severe hail from Columbus, northward to Toledo, eastward to Cleveland. And then in terms of our winds, some of the same areas, but I'm stretching it a little bit to the east as well as to the west here. And look, we have some other colors besides just the level 1. So let's zoom on in here. Anywhere from 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts are possible from as far north as Toledo down to Indianapolis. I think you guys are going to be on the very western parts of this, as I think storms are going to fire somewhere around your area and then travel east. So you guys should be on the low end of this. And this goes all the way down to Cincinnati. And then I have a moderate chance of those strong winds from Columbus northward to Cleveland. I think anywhere from 75 to 80 mile per hour gusts are possible with that line of storms that will be developing and moving off to the northeast. Pittsburgh, you have a low end chance to see up to 60 mile per hour gusts as well. And then a spin up tornado or two are not out of the question. So I'm going to kind of break it all down here because we don't have a whole lot of CAPE today, but we do have a little bit. We just need a little. And we have those steep lapse rates, which is the decrease of temperature as you go up in height. So we have cold air aloft, and we do have a little bit of moisture. And then we have strong winds, not just at the surface like we saw, we also have strong winds aloft as well. And those will be pushing everything to the surface. And then along with a cold front being present, we have that lifting mechanism. So not everything looks impressive, but with the lift and the cold air and all that fun stuff, we do have that chance for severe weather. So I thought I would explain that for you guys of why that wind will be a problem this afternoon and evening. And speaking of more problems, I mentioned a few minutes ago that after that cold front moves on through, that there'll still be some isolated, scattered precipitation areas, but it's not going to be rain. So this is right now that rain and that mixture of rain and snow and ice is going to be impacting the northeast as we get into this afternoon here. The storms are expected to fire up, and then once that comes on through and the cold front pushes on through the area, snow will be falling behind that system. So we are expecting some scattered snow showers to fall as we get into late this evening into the overnight hours, so keep that in mind. The good news is we're not really expecting a whole lot in terms of accumulation in the Ohio Valley. So from now through 3 p.m. this afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern time, we are expecting anywhere from a dusting to an inch, maybe 2 here in the north part of the Great Lakes region. As we go through this afternoon, evening, some scattered snow showers will be falling behind that cold front. So we could get maybe up to an inch across the area, maybe locally higher, but nothing too crazy. But those higher amounts will be occurring here in the northeast, anywhere from 4 to 8 inches, maybe a little bit more in localized areas in parts of the northeast with that system. So after that one moves out, what's going to be happening? Well, let's take a look at our future jet stream. Here is the trough that's going to be producing that severe weather later on this afternoon. You can see the gradient here is pretty strong and it's pretty cold aloft as well. That's what I talked about a few minutes ago. So as that one moves on out, we will be quiet for the beginning of our weekend. And then as we get into this weekend, this next trough will be moving on down south. No severe weather is expected, but we could see some snow and some heavier rain in some areas. But then as we get into Sunday and then into Monday, here comes the next trough. And this one we will have to probably watch late Monday and into Tuesday, and this is why. As we get into the beginning of Tuesday, it starts to take a little bit of that negative tilt, so we have to once again possibly watch the southeast as we get into the beginning of next week for another shot of severe weather. So here's our future radar. Again, just some areas of rain and snow across parts of the country. The northeast will start to look better as we get into the beginning of our weekend. Here comes another little system that will be bringing some heavier snow to parts of eastern Colorado and Kansas. That's why the winter storm watch is out. And then as we get into our Saturday and into our Sunday, some heavier rain here in the southeast. No severe weather is expected at this time with this system. But as we get into the beginning of next week, we'll be watching this third system here, and it will kick on out late Monday and into Tuesday. And yeah, you can see that very tight gradient, very strong storm system possibly as we get into the beginning of next week. So we'll be watching that very carefully and just taking a look at our CAPE for late Monday and into Tuesday of next week. We will have some instability down in Texas, and then it will start to shift to the east as we get into late Monday and into Tuesday. So again, we're still 5 days out. You guys, a lot of stuff can change, but this time of the year, any system that develops, we have to, watch, especially lately with the systems that's been basically going across the same areas again and again and being quite active. So we will be watching this for you guys very carefully. But for now, that's all I have for you. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as our TikTok page, especially if anything develops and we have to go live. We've been going on live on TikTok a bit more as well. So make sure you follow us there. And if you have any questions, concerns, or if you just want to say hi, you can give us a call at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hilltrace.com and check out our website at www.hilltrace.com. And also, if you haven't downloaded our new 4.0 app, make sure you do that as well, as we have some really cool new features on that app. But I am meteorologist Heather Kay. I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday.